Yeah,
Yeah,
запись. Yeah, and then begin.
I'm recording.
Yeah,
Okay.
begin.
Dilobarhan?
Yes, I'm here. So can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, of course.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So, hello everyone. We are very sorry for today's technical problems. We didn't expect that, but as you know, it sometimes happens with us, yes. So thank you very much for your patience and for waiting us. We are very glad to see you all here. And now we can get started. And today's our topic and webinar is related with your classroom. We can say that your classroom has already been your second house, right? And today we are dealing with multi-level classes in our class. We know different students. We have different students in our class. And we have today's webinar participants and today's members of ELT community are Malika Kasimova, Nilifar Sabirova, and Mitla Barhan Azimova. So we can get started here. And there is a famous saying that we cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. And it's visible that, of course, we cannot make or we cannot force our students to follow our instructions, right? And we can change or have modifications with our just instructions and activities. We can just have our students make or have a lot of fun with their learning. And let's just follow our today's agenda. We have very easy agenda for today. So firstly, we will talk about the multi-level class itself. So what is multi-level class? And we will talk about the benefits and challenges of teaching multi-level classroom and determination of learner differences. How can we identify, how can we determine what kind of students we have in our classroom? And we will be suggesting some teaching methods and selecting materials. We will have some recommendations for you. And lastly, we'll suggest some fun activities to make your classroom much more interesting and useful for your learners. Okay, can I ask here any volunteers, guys? Okay, so again, we are going to discuss the solutions as we have some problems. We will be discussing some solutions which help students to achieve their learning goals in our classroom and which help teachers better manage lesson planning and teaching the multi-level classroom. You will learn a lot with this webinar. And on the next slide, I have a question for you, dears. Can you please, any volunteers, answer to this question in your mind? What is multi-level class itself? Can we ask any volunteers here?
Can I try?
Yes, please.
As far as I know, multi-level classes are the kind of classes that comprise different level students. For example, they may be adults or they can be people after their puberty, yeah? And this class is known as for its diverse level, not the same. Their age is different, but their level is the same.
Okay, so here you mean the level is the same, but age is different, yes? Okay, thank you very much, Indira. So any other additions we have?
May I add?
Okay, please.
Well, about the level, I think I agree with the previous opinion, but if we don't think about the level of English, even there are students who are eager to learn during the class, and there are students who can be problematic, and they can affect others badly. So we can say that that's also somehow multi-level.
Yes, multi-level, of course. Thank you very much for your ideas. Yes, you are right, girls. So you have just contributed to this slide as well. So as you talked about the age differences and like proficiency levels, yes, here we have other cases as well. As you can see here, we have students with different cultural expectations. So their cultures can be different in the same classroom. And they may have educational background. So their educational background also differ from each other. So when they started learning, some of them earlier, some of them not. And of course, we have personality traits as we all own, yes. We have different personality traits which help us to differentiate from others. And of course, more importantly, we have different learning styles. So can you just add contributions here? So what do you understand in learning style differences in our students? What kind of learning styles do you know? Or in your classroom, what kind of students do you have?
Can I try?
Okay, please.
So students might be kinesthetic, visual,
Okay.
and one more. Actually, they learn by touching, they learn by reading, auditory, like by hearing, and by seeing visual.
Yes, exactly. So, and in your classroom, what kind of students do you have? I mean, what learning style account for most of your students? Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic?
Actually, it's kind of mixed. This is kind of they mix it in every classes, I think, in every class. But that's I think more visual students study at schools.
Yes, yes, you are right. Thank you very much. Of course, as we are dealing with multi-level classes, of course, learning styles of the students also differ from each other. And as you've mentioned, learning styles like kinesthetic learners, some of our students learn best when they act, yes, when they participate in role plays. But we have some other students as well who like just listen to others. Yes, when they participate in discussions, when they listen to the presentations, they can learn, they can discover a lot about the topic. But according to most of the research, of course, visual learners account for most of our students. Of course, they learn just with graphic organizers. They learn by seeing, they learn by watching. Yes, thank you very much for contributions. We can move to the next slide. Okay, here, as you can see, we have illustrated some benefits and challenges of the multi-level classes. So we have some benefits here I would like to mention about them. And can you please think about the challenges of the multi-level class? And now I will be defining what kind of benefits we have with this kind of students. So firstly, when we have different level students, we have enough students for interaction. As we mentioned, we have different learning styles, right? We have different learning styles, learning preferences, and different personality traits. So this can increase students' interest as they have different educational background. Yes, even cultural background can be different. And this can also increase their energy level and linguistic input at the same time. Of course, at the same time, it can provide cooperative and interdependent learning. So students can learn from each other. Yes, we can just assign students for group works in order to learn better, so they can just learn with the help of collaboration as well. So another benefit of this multi-level class is variety of human resources. Of course, variety makes different, right? Different. So here, when we have different multi-level classes with different students, we will have different opinions in the same classroom. So we will have different cultures, different backgrounds, yes, different experiences and learning styles at the same time. So at the same time, who can share any challenges of this kind of multi-level classes? What kind of challenges can we have in these classes?
May I try?
Of course, can you please?
I think that one of the most challenges of multi-level classrooms is finding appropriate teaching resources and materials for students.
Yes, exactly. Of course, resources are the kind of things which makes it difficult, yes, for working with this kind of multi-level classroom, because as we mentioned, learning preferences or interests, expectations of the students are different. Of course, it's very difficult to match the resources with its like appropriateness of the students as well with their interest. Another kind of challenges, who can add here? So what kind of challenges do you have with these multi-level classes? I think all of you have students with different levels, right?
May I try?
Preparation of materials.
Okay.
And
Yes.
activities can be.
Activities, yeah.
Activities. Of course, appropriate activities, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, as this kind of classes demand from us differentiated instructions, we need a lot of time, yeah? But
Yeah.
in today's life, it's very problematic to find a lot of time to concentrate on one lesson. Therefore, it's one of the challenges to teach
Yes.
this kind of classes.
Exactly. Thank you very much for contributions. Of course, like resources, like this kind of different kind of activities, matching the activities to the preferences of the students are always difficult for the teachers, right? And at the same time, we can say that it's a bit difficult to control the students at the same time. Yes, when we have different level students, of course, higher level students can accomplish the task very quickly while others are doing. So this can lead to some kind of noise in the classroom, right? So someone is asking the question. So I'm asking about the challenges of multi-level class. What kind of challenges do you have in your classroom? I mean, dealing with this kind of multi-level students.
Finding appropriate topic for all levels, maybe, for all students.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Of course, as we mentioned, controlling, yes, management problems, of course, huge amount of work will be overloaded for the teachers, of course, when they deal with this kind of students, because they have to differentiate the instructions, right? Confusing vocabulary. Okay, yes, it's also possible. When you deal with higher level students, it's a bit difficult with lower level students when you present some kind of topic related vocabulary. Thank you very much. We can move to the next slide, please. So, determination of learner differences. How can we determine the students' differences in our classroom? Here we are just suggesting one way, yes. It's, of course, very important to know the students' needs, firstly, what they are going to learn, what are their expectations, right? So it's suggested that it's better to have needs analysis before beginning the first class, yes? Or you can have some placement tests as well, because placement tests help you to put your students into some kind of levels, yes? For example, you can just put some kind of names with the help of letters, like students with A or B or C level students. You can just divide them into some parts. And here we have some provided some examples. Yes, you can just give your students, for example, when you ask students for their learning. Oh, can you please share the PPT? So when you ask your students about their learning expectations, why they are learning the English language, they may have different ideas. Yes, some of them can learn English to improve their speaking skills, or some of them just learn to get into the college or university and to use for traveling purposes, for example, or to become a future teacher, to learn the rules of grammar, or to please their parents. So these are like options you can just provide in your questionnaires, in your written work, when you ask students about their interests or learning goals. Okay, thank you very much. You can move to the next slide, and our partners will continue with the next one.
Thank you, Dilabarkhan. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Yes,
okay. As you noticed, we posted the poll in our main channel, and you voted there, dear teachers. Thank you for that. And the question was, do your students have the same proficiency level? And we had two options there. Yes, all of my students are almost at the same level. And the second one is no, some students are higher or lower than other students. And you may see here the results that almost 89% of the teachers chose the second options, that they have multi-level learners. So it's not secret that in our state schools, academic lyceums, and even at universities, especially in ESP courses, we have multi-level students. And it's the big challenge for the teachers to make lesson plan, to prepare the materials, and to manage the classroom. Because along with the multi-level classrooms, we have the big size classes, right? So here we are going to discuss the main strategies which can help you to deal with multi-level learners. I would like to speak about three main strategies which were proposed by the popular linguists and scholars. They are increasing learner autonomy, dividing and combining students, planning and preparing materials. So let's talk about them more thoroughly. First one is learner autonomy. So, dear teachers, what do you understand by learner autonomy? What's that?
May I?
Uh-huh.
Autonomous learner is the learner who learns naturally. I mean, when you live, for example, in English-speaking country, you learn the language without without study, because you need to talk in the language in this country, and you become an autonomous learner.
Thank you for your opinion. Any volunteers?
Independent learner, maybe without the contribution of the teacher, they learn themselves, work on their language by searching more resources without the help of others.
Yes, it's also right. It's kind of learners learning independently, but the most important thing here is our learners should take the responsibility for their own learning. Like they feel this thing, they should feel that this learning process is very necessary for themselves. And here we should teach our learners to study harder and to achieve, in order to achieve their goals, and how to encourage their learner autonomy. So there are some suggestions like building background knowledge. That means like new learning always will be built up with the prior knowledge. Like if we make some connections with the background knowledge of our learners, it will help them to understand the topic, understand the theme much more easily. And the second one is choosing engaging context and topics. So if we choose the topics based on our learners' preferences, or interest, so it will also help to increase their learner autonomy. Like they can explore, they can investigate this topic more, not only inside the classroom but outside the classroom using the internet. And another very essential point is to get students to reflect on their learning. When students reflect on their learning, they can notice their weaknesses much more easily. So how can they reflect their learning process? We have different kinds of activities for reflection, right? For example, at the end of the lesson, we can distribute a piece of paper or stickers to our students and ask them to write what they have learned today, or what they not they didn't understand so well. And this kind of questions help learners to reflect, to remember the target topic, and their response will help us to assess or evaluate our lessons. And one more suggestion here is to have suggestion box in our classrooms, like once in a week. Like our learners can write their suggestions for the lesson, like what they like, what they don't like, yeah, what's easy for them and what's difficult, and about instructions, are the instructions clear for them or not. So it's also help us to make our lessons, to design our lesson plans more effectively, and at the same time it will help our learners to reflect on their learning process. And the next very essential point is self-assessment and peer checking. Time to time, it would be good if we give a chance to our learners for self-assessment, like or peer checking. While they are peer checking and while they should give feedback to their peers, it also helps them to compare their weaknesses, yeah, or strengths with their peers. And it's also kind of helps boost to learners' autonomy, to study independently and to take the responsibility for their own learning. So this was the first important criteria with dealing with multi-level classes. And the next one is dividing and combining groups. So while we divide the groups, we can divide it like ability learners and cross ability learners. What does it mean? Like ability learners, while our learners have the same levels. For example, let's say we are teaching elementary and intermediate levels, yeah? And we may divide elementary level separately and the intermediate level separately. And of course, there are some factors to consider while grouping. We may group based on the age, learning style, proficiency level, personality, or motivation. So we can, if we divide the learners like similarly, with similar abilities, with similar style, similar proficiency level, it will be like ability learners grouping. And in cross ability learners grouping, we can divide them like we can mix them with independent students and with the elementary students, like we can make the mixed group, or we can make some pairs, like more capable students and lower level student. For likability learners, what kind of tasks can we give them? So let's say we are learning about the environment and we have the text about environment, yeah, we can give them the same text, the same materials, but with the different tasks. For the lower level, we should give much easier tasks, and for upper intermediate or higher level learners, we should give much more complicated tasks. As I mentioned before, that while higher level learners help to the lower level learners, it's the process like a scaffolding. Zone of proximal development, which was suggested by Lev Vygotskiy. It means that the learning zone in which the learner can achieve the task with input from someone who knows more. It means you, like from teachers, yeah? Children always learn with the assistance of the parents, teachers, or their peers. In multi-level classrooms, it's very time-consuming, and also teachers have to spend a lot of energy, yeah, to prepare materials, to scaffold, I mean, to help their learners to study. But if we teach learners, show the learners or organize their grouping to work with each other, to help with each other, it will be much more easier for us. So when lower level students can get help from more capable students. So this means scaffolding. It means scaffolding, like to make the tasks, to make something much easier to understand. But if we want our learners that working in to work in pairs together, we should build friendly atmosphere for that. We know that we have special activities, yeah, like finding someone who has the same interests, yeah, who has like pet, find someone who likes apples, and etc. These activities like can make our learners closer. And another thing is having the classes outside. For example, once in a month, let's say, we can organize the classes outside and choose appropriate topic for that, and this will be also very fun for our learners, and they may have they can make their relationships, build their good relationships with each other. And another suggestion is having parties. Yeah, sometimes we can organize parties for our learners. It can be like the end of the term or some holidays with just a piece of cakes and some balloons. We can organize great parties. It can be like small things for us, but for our learners, it can be very great way to get to know each other better. And if their relationships is very good, if the environment, class environment, they have friendly atmosphere, so the learners can help each other. It means like we have less work. Like it means it's much more easier for the teachers. And while preparing materials, instead of text-based approach, we should have theme-based approach. We know that in our state schools, we have some required books which were provided by the government, but I'm sorry. But it's better, it's more efficient to work on theme-based approach. It's like substitute materials that accomplish the same objectives. Like we can have the same theme for elementary level and intermediate levels, yeah, let's say food and drink, but the text and tasks are different. And I would like to suggest you newsela.com, where you can find different reading passages with different for different levels. For example, one topic with the different levels for the different learning styles, and also for practicing grammar. We have a book, Games for Grammar Practice, and at the end of our webinar, we can post it in our channel. Here you may also find like the same topic, for example, present continuous and different activities for beginners, intermediate level, or upper intermediate levels, and so on. So now it's time to talk about teaching methods. Nilfar?
Yes, hello everyone. I would like to speak about some teaching methods and activities that you can conduct with multi-level classes. For this, we know that it is impossible to differentiate all activities during the lesson, but we can differentiate at least one activity per lesson. For example, first you may start your class with warm-up activities that involves the whole group, and then after this, break parts of the class into type of grouping. For example, it may depend on the grammar point or activity that you want, and after this, you can create another group that, for example, you have the other students, you self-assess materials, and after this, at the end, you may bring the class back together for a whole group activity where they will work with each other and collaborate. After this, let's move to the activities which you can use during your lessons. Next slide, please. Alikapa, can you move to the next slide? Alikapa. Well, let's speak about the activity itself. It is called a Jigsaw reading activity. In this Jigsaw reading, first of all, you can just simply select one reading activity, pre-teach the vocabulary and grammar, when you pre-teach, after pre-teaching, probably with the games, divide the reading into parts. For example, each student reads their part of the article, story silently themselves, and after that, advanced students should be given longer and more challenging pages. But instead, the lower level students can be given this shorter or a bit simpler parts of the reading part. After this, after reading, you can have the students either write summary of the article or story or give it orally. So you simultaneously you can improve their both writing and speaking skills. Then finally, they can work together. The students try to reconstruct the article in the correct order and check it against the original article. Well, the next activity, Malika, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Using the article activity. For example, you know that if you have, for example, in one class, low intermediate group, intermediate or advanced group, you may choose one reading activity, I mean text. It can be nonfiction. You know that in nonfiction text, we have lots of academic vocabulary. So before you may read it yourself, but you may demonstrate how to preview the article by looking at the title, subtitle, and illustrations so they can predict before what the text is about. And after this reading, you may break your groups into 3 subgroup levels, where each group would get an activity to assess their understanding of the article, and activities would be level appropriate, of course. And for example, the advanced group may be asked to write about their opinion of the context, or they can debate elements of the article. But intermediate group might be asked to answer a multiple choice quiz. So beforehand, you need to prepare those questions like multiple choice questions or quizzes. And and they will answer simple content-based questions, but low-level intermediate groups might be asked to do fill in the blank exercise based on the sentences from the article with vocabulary that they have. Each group works on their own level using the same article. So this is an example of differentiation. So the article is the same, but the tasks are different depending on their level. But if you want to make this task a bit easier, for example, you may, as a homework for the most advanced students, you may ask them to prepare a multiple choice question about the article. Let the, for example, then intermediate levels can prepare fill in the blank gaps. The beginners can have vocabulary to learn. Students hand in their work for making or do pair marking in the class, so they will assess each other. Then, for example, in future lessons, the multiple choice questions are given to the intermediate and the fill in the blanks are given to the beginners. So their questions like test and multiple choice questions will be used in further lessons. So this is one example of the our activity. Next slide, please, Malikepa. The next activity is about body reading activity. We know, have you heard about the body, the word body? It is like pairs. When students work in pairs, for example, this activity may switch to any level, any size and level classes. For example, for writing and reading, students first pair up for body reading. Body reading involves one student reading and the body helping to make sure that the reader is pronouncing the words correctly. So they will check each other. The body also asks questions after the reading to check comprehension. What are the benefits of this activity? For example, with adults, it is often a very easy multi-level activity, since it is similar to studying together outside of class. For example, higher level students are able to monitor lower level students, and having lower level students monitoring higher level students, often looking at the lower level students, higher ones can observe their own fossilized errors. So by fossilized, we understand that the errors which they they make repeatedly and with unconsciously. So they do not notice their mistakes, but observing their lower level students will help them to overcome those fossilized errors. And the next activity, peer editing activity. In the peer editing activity, it is like a pre-writing activity, and it will help your learners to improve their writing skills. For example, first you need to ask your students to pre-write, to make a draft independently. Then make them to work in groups or in pairs. Peer editing allows students to look at each other's work, make corrections, comments at their own levels, and advanced ESL students can be encouraged to write more with greater grammatical complexity. Peer editing is then done as a last step before writing the final draft. Students can be encouraged to discuss content as well as grammar and punctuation. So in pairs, they may discuss or give some advice and comments to make their writing even more effective. What are the benefits of this activity? It is excellent for encouraging meaningful interaction between students, and by taking time to pre-teach necessary vocabulary and grammar, all students will be able to participate in the games together. And our final activity, yeah, actually it was Jigsaw reading. I already explained it, but I will briefly explain it again. So when the teacher divides one text into several pieces and provides it to the learners with different levels. For example, the easy ones will be given to lower levels, more complicated sentences will be given to more advanced students, and altogether they, when they, after reading their parts, they will work together and retell their parts. So I guess this is the last activity, and let's move to the reflection time. Malikapa?
Thank you, Nilüfer. So this is actually your time, dear participants. We'll have some questions here. Have you ever used differentiated instructions in your classrooms? And what kind of benefits and challenges you may face with multi-level classes? Like we have already discussed this question, yeah? And how are you dealing with your multi-level classes? Maybe you have some other suggestions. Maybe you will have some more efficient approaches, yeah? Can you share your insights, please?
So, can I speak?
May I also?
Yes, please.
Okay, another person may speak. I will.
So, ladies?
Oh, who is first?
Go ahead.
Well, may I talk then? Actually, with a multi-level group, when I had at a language center, I usually did peer work when it's speaking activity or when it was the task activity. I divided group with stronger students with the weaker ones and give them different tasks together to do. So when it was role play, stronger ones always supported those weaker ones, and because together their work was assessed, that's why they had to support each other. So I used this method.
Okay, great. Thank you. Which strategy are you going to use or use it before? Well, any other volunteers to speak about it? Have you found any strategy new for you, or have you already used them?
Actually, I really like the activity, buddy activity, where buddy reader, yes, where two people together. I have never used it in my own teaching, and I think I will definitely use it. And I didn't think about it before as well. And I suppose this activity is very helpful for both students, because a strong student also will benefit a lot by teaching, by explaining, while the weaker student will learn from the stronger one. And I think this strategy is very good one, and it helps to the teacher also as well, because we know that students learn more, they just understand better when their peers speak, not the teacher. That's why teacher may assign the students like by dividing them into pairs, and they will work together and they will explain to each other, and it will ease the teacher's work as well.
Okay, thank you. So, any other ideas? Or if you have any questions, like, feel free to ask. If you don't have any questions, and if we don't have any volunteers to speak, so I think it's time to finish our webinar. We really hope that at least some like little suggestions, if you took some little suggestions from this webinar, we'll be very happy. And we want to thank you for your participation today, spending time with us, and we wish you good luck. dealing with multi-level learners.
Oh, thank you to you as well.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
It was interesting webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.